Well, the P2P Foundation, is a bit like a collective intellectual, like Gramsci, the organic intellectuals, right? So, but today it's very difficult to be an individual to do that because you're so much solicited by social media and networks that the idea that you can separate yourself from the movement and start reading books all day, it's really problematic. But if you create like a wiki like we do and blogs and then you get like a collective process of self-understanding where people share insights, and so our role is to observe, to try to understand and to show the models that work and not work to the movement as a whole, so that it can go faster, as a catalyst. Like you can learn from each other because, previous phase transition took 200-300 years. We don't have the time. We have 2025, 2030 maximum. So by that time, at least the basis of the alternative economic system and social system has to be in place, so that when social structures collapse, there is something that's there that can be the base of the alternative. Well, I think there's three things happening, and they're kind of an answer to the systemic crisis that people are experiencing today, which is more and more social inequality and an ecological crisis. And those three things are the mutualization of knowledge. So that's the open source movement, which I just mentioned, free software, open culture. Mutualization of infrastructures. This is what we do here. So the OuiShare is more about car sharing, bike sharing, sharing physical things. And the third thing is relocalization of production. So there's a lot of work around reorganizing food chains, cooperative energy projects. So it's kind of like people are looking at an alternative, and since they don't have the power to change the system, they just look for concrete solutions, close to their own situation. And more people are doing this, and more people are finding each other. So it's kind of like today the acceleration is that it's going from fragmented to kind of ecosystemic. So the people doing food co-ops are now talking to people doing time banking. And the time banking people are talking to the credit unions, and the credit unions are talking to the makerspaces. So this is kind of going on a global basis, not everywhere as fast, but pretty much everywhere. So I'm proposing the creation of two new institutions. One is the Assembly of the Commons. This would be a place or an institution where people who actually co-create common goods can meet, create a shared culture, and can create social charters and demands towards the policy world. And the second one is a Chamber of the Commons, which is for all ethical entrepreneurs. So the people who co-create commons and create livelihoods for the commons, these would also create their own institution. The reason I think they need to be separate is a bit like church and state. It's like when you're in business, you have a certain priority. As a citizen, you have other priorities. So I think it's better not to contaminate those two institutions and let them operate independently. And for me, they should recreate the politics around the commons. Because what we have now is a politics around labor, and labor is shrinking. So all the social victories that we achieved the last 200 years are now being endangered because that force is diminishing. Our world combines two things that are wrong. One is we believe nature is infinite, so we have an endless growth economy which destroys nature. And then we think that things that are abundant should be made scarce so they can be market goods. And I think in order to survive, we just simply, simple to say, reverse it. Recognize natural abundance and respect it, and recognize natural scarcity and respect it. Yeah, and doing that with social justice. So these are kind of the three planks that need to be combined. And I think the commons can be a glue for that. So I want to replace the idea of labor, and the kind of socialist idea with the idea of commons. And I think this is a new glue that could unite different movements and parties because they're all creating common goods. They all have an interest in creating common goods. I would say everything needs to change at the same time. So I think we need an integrative point of view, meaning look at all different aspects that need to change and then create feedback loops. So we need to change as a person. We need to do things, stop wasting, stop chasing accumulation. We need to find other ways to relate with people. We need different ways of decision making. So it's not one or the other. It's all interrelated, and so have a vision that can connect those. Because most people are obsessed by one thing, like consciousness has to change, or culture has to change, or machinery needs to change, or the new software will solve this issue, right? None by itself is sufficient. You need an integrative point of view. For me, the key again is creating commons. So, what do we need? How can we co-create the response to that need? And so people can freely contribute to commons. Around that commons, we create livelihoods, as autonomous as we can. So I call this the ethical entrepreneurial coalition around each commons. Then we have a new type of foundation that we see emerging. I call them for-benefit associations that enable and empower this cooperation to occur. So every commons is usually linked to some kind of foundation, like the Wikimedia Foundation, the Linux Foundation. So this is the microeconomy which is emerging right now. I see this as a model for a whole society. You have a productive civil society, an ethical economy which has internalized ecological and social justice issues, and a partner state which is a collective institution to enable this kind of autonomous creation of commons. So that for me is kind of the answer, and to do that we need to create a consciousness, because a lot of people are doing it but they don't know they're doing it. Just as workers in the 19th century didn't know they were workers. They thought they were displaced farmers.